The night rain fell in sharp, angry slashes against the rusted zinc roof of the compound. From a distance, it sounded like the land itself was weeping. Amoka pressed her back against the cold wall of her small room, her breath coming out in quiet gasps. She had turned off the light 20 minutes ago, hoping it would stop him from finding her. But she knew Michael. Light or no light, once he was in the mood, he would search every crevice of Lagos to find her. She could still hear his voice from earlier that day, leave me, echoing in her head. After everything I've done for you? I made you. You belong to me. She had tried to leave twice in the past, each time ending in broken promises and broken bones. This time, she hadn't told a soul. She didn't go to her mother's house in Abulegba. She didn't go to her sister in Ibadan. She found a small boys' quarter in Ketu, paid 3 months' rent with what she had secretly saved, and disappeared. For 3 weeks, it worked. Until this morning. She had gone to buy foodstuff in the nearby market, headscarf tightly wrapped and sunglasses shielding her eyes. A hand grabbed her wrist. She turned, and nearly vomited from fear. Michael. He had smiled, that familiar, dangerous smile, his eyes burning like hot coals. Baby. You dey craze. She ran. Not because she had a plan. Her legs simply refused to stay in one place. She dropped the tomatoes. The okra spilled. Her slippers flung off. She ran. Now, she was back in her room, heart threatening to break her ribs, afraid to even blink. A knock. 3 times. Soft. Measured. She froze. Another knock. This time harder. Amoka. I know you're in there. Her skin turned to ice. The voice was calm. Controlled. Too calm. Amoka, you're making me do this. Don't forget who I am. Then silence. It was worse than shouting. The silence meant he was thinking. And when Michael started thinking, someone got hurt. She tiptoed toward the corner where she had hidden the bag. It was a small black bag with only the essentials, ID, 45,000 Nigerian nairas in cash, and her phone with the battery removed. She couldn't risk being tracked. She had also packed her documents, school cert, NYSC discharge, and passport. She didn't know where she would go, but she was determined to leave Lagos. Maybe even Nigeria. She slid the window slightly open and peered out. The compound was dark. The streetlight that usually flickered over the gutter had gone out 2 days ago. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel his presence. Like smoke, thick and poisonous. Suddenly, glass shattered. Her front door. She screamed, instinctively grabbing the bag and dashing toward the window. Michael burst in, panting, face soaked from rain, holding a small crowbar in his hand. Amoka. She jumped. She landed hard on the ground outside, twisting her ankle, but adrenaline numbed the pain. She crawled, then stood and limped toward the back gate. Amoka. You want to kill me? After everything. His voice was closer now. She ran, gasping. She reached the back gate. Locked. She grabbed a nearby brick and smashed the rusty padlock. Once. Twice. It cracked. She flung it open and ran into the street, barefoot, bag clutched to her chest like a baby. It was almost midnight. The streets were mostly empty. A few night hawkers huddled under makeshift umbrellas, eyes wide with curiosity but unwilling to intervene. She flagged down a Kiki. Please, please, Ojota. Fast, fast. The driver hesitated. You know, get shoe. Go. I'll pay double. The Kiki zoomed off. Amoka looked behind. Michael was in the street. Watching. But not running. That scared her even more. At Ojota, she switched to a bus heading to Ibadan. It was one of those rickety night buses with cracked windows and leaking roofs, but she didn't care. She needed distance. As the bus started moving, she finally allowed herself to breathe. But her relief was short-lived. At the Baga checkpoint, the bus was stopped. Police were doing routine checks. One officer came to their window. "Where are you people going?" The driver answered. "Ibadan." The officer's eyes swept through the bus. His gaze paused on Amoka. "You, madam. Step down." Her stomach clenched. "Why?" "Step down." Her fingers trembled as she obeyed. The officer took her aside. "Somebody say you thief him money. He report say you dey run." Amoka's knees nearly buckled. "It's a lie." Who said?" The officer brought out a phone and showed her a picture. "Michael." She stared in horror. He had reported her. Probably told them she stole from him. Maybe he used one of his police friends. He knew people in high places. "Officer, he's my ex. He's abusing me. I'm escaping." He interrupted. "You have any proof?" She opened her bag and showed her bruised pictures. Hospital cards. Police reports. Some officers had even refused to arrest him in the past, saying no relationship matter. The officer frowned. "Stay here. I'll make call." Minutes later, another officer came. A woman. She interviewed Amoka separately, asked questions. Something changed. Maybe the bruises spoke louder than her words. Or maybe this woman had once been Amoka. After some hushed discussion between the officers, they let her back into the bus. "You're lucky," the male officer said. "That woman talk say make we let you go. But you better disappear. That guy no normal." Back in the bus, Amoka stared into the night. Her ankle throbbed. Her eyes burned. Her heart remained in Lagos, still trembling, still unsure. But the road was opening. Her phone buzzed. She had inserted the battery in Ibadan. One message. "Michael, you can run, Amoka. But remember this, no matter where you hide, I'll find you. You're mine." She deleted it. Then blocked him. And as the bus moved further away, with dawn breaking on the horizon, Amoka didn't smile. But for the first time in years, she hoped. Amoka arrived in Ibadan with the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders like a slab of concrete. Her swollen ankle had doubled in size, and every step sent sparks of pain through her leg. But she didn't care. Pain meant she was still alive and free. She checked into a cheap guest house near Mokola using a fake name. Nkechi. She had always liked the name. It sounded like someone braver than she had ever been. The room was dusty, the mattress sagged in the middle, and the fan squealed when turned on. But it had a lock on the door and no Michael. She didn't sleep much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, Michael at the window, Michael in the market, Michael whispering her name in that snake-like tone that always preceded violence. Her body jerked awake each time, drenched in sweat, heart galloping. By morning, she knew she had to disappear again. This time, properly. She visited a cybercafe and used one of the computers to search how to get a new identity in Nigeria. The results were vague. Forums. Blogs. Dangerous suggestions. Some offered contacts, numbers she didn't dare call. But one stood out, a women's rights organization based in Ibadan. They specialized in domestic abuse and protection. The reviews were few but hopeful. She made her way there. It was a small office tucked between a tailor's shop and a phone accessory store. No signs, no flashing boards. Just a metal gate with the initials WLN, Women's Liberation Network. She knocked. A woman in her 40s opened. Short hair. Sharp eyes. Calm presence. I'm here for help, Amoka whispered. Her voice cracked. The woman stepped aside without a word and let her in. The shelter was behind the office, a converted duplex with about 8 other women, some with babies, some with bandages. All silent, all watchful. Amoka was interviewed again. Her story. The threats. The police. The late-night escape. She expected disbelief. Instead, she received silence and a soft nod. You're not the first, said Auntie Monaiki, the head counselor. And unfortunately, you won't be the last. For 2 weeks, Amoka stayed hidden. They gave her new clothes, a therapist, food, even started training her in a small tailoring skill program funded by a German NGO. For the first time in years, she laughed. Then the text came. From a new number. Nkechi, you're really getting good at hiding. But I'm close. So close I can almost smell your fear. Amoka dropped the phone. The staff sprang into action. The organization had dealt with stalkers before. They moved her to another shelter, this one further out, in Iseyin, a rural area with limited cell reception. But Amoka knew. Michael was haunting her again. 3 days later, just before midnight, the barking started. Dogs. Angry. Barking at something or someone. The night guard was missing. The security lights flickered. A part of the back fence had been tampered with. Everyone was on high alert. Auntie Monaiki arrived the next morning. She was quiet as she checked the fence and spoke to the local vigilante. Then she called Amoka aside. You said he had friends in the police, right? Amoka nodded. Monaiki sighed. Someone filed a missing person report on you yesterday. Claimed you're mentally unstable. That you ran away from psychiatric care. Amoka's hands trembled. He's trying to get me taken by force. Yes, Monaiki said. But he won't win. That night, Amoka was moved again. This time, no one was told where. Not even the other women in the shelter. A driver with no information beyond a location. A switch of SIM cards. A burner phone. She arrived in Ilorin under a new name. Miriam. A new shelter. A new skill training, this time in catering. She was tired of running. But more tired of being afraid. She stared at her reflection in the mirror one morning, barely recognizing the woman in the glass. Was she broken beyond repair? Or simply being forged into something harder? Michael had taken her peace. Her home. Her trust in others. But he would not take her name again. 1 month later, Amoka stood behind a small table at a local community fair. She was selling small pastries. Puff puff, meat pie, and some cinnamon buns she'd recently learned to make. Her ankle had healed. Her confidence was slower, but it was coming. The fair was noisy, children ran past with balloons, an old man preached with a megaphone, and Afrobeats played from a loudspeaker near the canopies. That's why she didn't hear the voice at first. It came from behind her. Still pretending you can live without me. Her blood froze. She turned. Michael. Standing 5 feet away, no emotion on his face. A calm monster. A predator in plain clothes. She couldn't breathe. He smiled. I told you, baby. You're mine. She screamed. People turned. Some moved forward. Others held back. But this time, she wasn't alone. 2 plainclothes officers from the NGO security team had been shadowing her all day, just in case. They tackled him before he could get closer. He fought like a cornered animal, but they pinned him. Another woman brought out her phone, recording. A crowd gathered. The police arrived moments later. Michael was dragged away, cursing. Amoka collapsed into the arms of a volunteer. shaking, crying. But this time, she cried not from fear. She cried because she had fought. And finally, she had won a battle. The courtroom was cold. Not because of the air conditioning, it barely worked, but because of the silence. That heavy, suffocating silence that came just before justice tried to speak. Amoka sat at the front, in a modest navy blue dress. Her hands trembled in her lap, not from fear, but from the burden of memory. Of everything she had endured. Across the aisle sat Michael. Cuffed. Still. His face was unreadable, blank, like a fresh grave. The prosecution had built a strong case. Multiple police reports. Medical records. A video of his arrest at the community fair. A psychologist's report on the trauma Amoka had suffered. And then, there was her testimony. She took the stand. Her voice shook at first. The judge encouraged her to take her time. And so she told it all. How it began. How Michael had charmed her, flattered her, isolated her. How the slap started. How the apologies came with flowers. How the control grew tighter than a noose. She didn't cry. Until she spoke about the first time he threatened to kill her. The courtroom was still. Even the judge looked away for a moment. Then it was Michael's lawyer's turn to cross-examine. A thin man in a grey suit with eyes like cold glass. Miss Amoka, he began, is it true that you never legally reported Mr. Michael until recently? I did, she replied. I have reports that were ignored. I gave them to the police. But there are gaps in the dates. Times when you left and came back. Doesn't that show consent? Amoka stared at him. No. It shows how scared I was. And how hard it is to leave someone who knows how to break your mind. He smirked, yet you found the strength now? Yes. Because I realized he would kill me if I didn't. Michael shifted in his seat. The case dragged on for weeks. Michael tried to delay the trial, claimed illness, tried to discredit Amoka, even paid some journalists to publish false stories about her. But the NGO supported her with lawyers, therapists, and protection. Then, one night, 2 weeks before the final ruling, Amoka received a message. A grainy photo of her mother, standing outside her small house in Abulegba. The caption, drop the case. Or she's next. Amoka dropped the phone. Tears streamed down her face. She had come too far. But now her mother was in danger. She told the NGO everything. That night, they moved her mother into protective housing. And they changed Amoka's number again. This time, she wasn't scared. She was furious. Final day of trial. Michael stood, still smug, still pretending to be untouchable. The judge adjusted his glasses. His voice was calm. But every word fell like a hammer. This court has found the defendant guilty of multiple counts: domestic assault, attempted kidnapping, stalking, and psychological abuse. The sentence is 25 years in prison, with no option for parole in the first 15. A gasp rippled through the court. Michael exploded. You can't do this. I made her. She's nothing without me. The judge slammed the gavel. Remove him. They dragged him out, kicking, shouting her name like a curse. But Amoka didn't flinch. She watched him go. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly free. 3 months later, Amoka stood at a small ribbon-cutting ceremony. She was opening her own catering business in Ilorin, Taste of Light. A small shop, painted soft yellow, with glass display windows and the smell of fresh meat pies. She had hired 2 other women from the shelter. Survivors. Fighters. She gave a small speech. Short. Honest. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. Today, I know survival is not the end. It's the beginning. The crowd clapped. Behind her, a journalist asked, "Do you still think about him?" She turned slightly, her smile calm. "I think about the girl I used to be. And I thank God I'm not her anymore." The wind blew softly. And for the first time in a long time, Amoka closed her eyes and breathed in peace.